Welcome to the webinar, Tame the Anxiety of Communicating. It's excellent to have you on board today. Before we get going, just a couple of quick disclaimers. First, we will indeed be speaking about anxiety for the next several minutes. However, while some of what we might share today will be medicinal for you, it is by no means supposed to take the place of medical advice, just in case you're dealing with severe or chronic anxiety. Also, we here at iVoice Communication, we work diligently to always coach and train and speak as inclusively as possible. So if for some reason you hear anything that doesn't sit quite right with you this afternoon, then please just let us know. Just communicate. My name is Donna Mac, and I come to you with more than 40 years of communication experience. For more than a couple of decades, I worked in the media. And then I worked for a good handful of years in digital media. And for the past dozen years now, I have been an executive communication coach, a workforce trainer, and a speaker. And in the year 2017, I saw some major changes. I actually saw the fear and the anxiety we have around speaking and communicating skyrocket. And so what I decided to do is I ended up putting myself back to school and I became a certified mindfulness teacher. And this is an important point because for the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about how we feel and what we think as communicators. And this is important because how we think and how we feel is directly related with how we speak and how we communicate. So, more than 80% of everyone admits to some form of fear of speaking or great anxiety around speaking and communicating. So, you come to us today, I'm going to guess you're looking for some relief. First and foremost, please know you are absolutely not alone. And is this getting worse in this day and age? I believe so. And I don't believe I need to spend much time selling you on that fact. There's always been great anxiety around speaking and communicating. And now with the pandemic and the challenges we have around speaking and communicating virtually, and we're not only doing it on a local level, but so many of us are have these new opportunities to speak regionally and nationally and even internationally. Of course, there's a bit more fear and a bit more anxiety. So, welcome. And the question is today, what are we going to do about it? So, it's at this point in the program where typically I take some time and I talk about why this webinar is really important to you. But instead of me doing that for you, what I would like you to do is I would like you to tell us specifically why it's important for you. I'm going to pop up a few words here on the screen, and these are the words that I hear most often as I coach and I train people. They tell me that, oh my goodness, the anxiety that people feel around speaking and communicating, it messes with their confidence and certainly their influence and their ability to lead and manage people. And even if they're not in a managerial position, perhaps they're a newcomer, so to speak, it might hinder their opportunity to be promoted, to share their innovative ideas, to collaborate with people, and to make money, not only individually, but for a company. So take just a moment here. I might even ask you to take a deep breath at this point, and I want you to ask the question specifically for you. Why is this webinar important for you? And then I'd like you to share what you come up with me today. And you can do that simply by finding the chat box, bottom of the screen. Please put in a word or two, or maybe a phrase that describes your situation. How does the anxiety that you feel around speaking and communicating hinder your abilities? Thank you. Keep them coming in for just another minute or so. Thank you. And now I'm actually going to ask you to sit with this for a moment because this is what we call your why. And this is your bigger, better offer. as you move forth as a communicator who's doing your best, right, to open up the lines of communication and create those healthy human connections we so desperately need in business today, in the 2020s and beyond. When this image crossed my desk a couple of years ago, I said, boy, does that say it all. So often, when I work with people who are dealing with the anxiety of speaking and communicating, their initial reaction when they feel the anxiety is to run from it. But as we know, running from it is not going to help us tame it. I've been doing a lot of work over the past many months with the Mindfulness Center at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. And we often talk about the fact that we can't run from our anxiety in order to fix it, right? In order to improve it at all. The best thing to do is to really turn towards it, to learn to be with it, to actually get to know it up close and personal, because that's the only way that we're going to have the opportunity to tame it, right? To control it at all, to control it before it controls us. So, how are we going to do that today? We're actually going to turn towards how we feel, right? Those anxious thoughts and those anxious sensations in our body, in our emotions, and yes, in our thoughts. We're going to explore. So I invite you to actually become a bit curious at this point as we turn towards our anxiety as opposed to running from it. Okay, let's start with our body. I don't know about you, but I hold a lot of my anxious energy in my fists and in my hands. And the question to ask yourself is, does your body feel more constricted or does it feel more expanded? Let's do a little exercise here. I'm going to invite you to place your feet flat on the floor if they're not there already, and get out of the busy mind for just a moment here and turn inward. Turn inward towards your body and ask yourself that question. How is your body feeling? Constricted or expanded? Again, the goal is to open up the lines of communication, create those healthy human connections. And those healthy human connections begin with healthy humans. About 90% of everyone we coach and train here at iVoice Communication says they hold the majority of their stress and their anxiety in their backs, in their necks, and their shoulders. So if that sounds like you, follow me for just a moment. I want you to take your chin and point it down to your chest and then up towards the ceiling, asking yourself how your head, your neck, your shoulders, your back are all feeling right now. And then back down towards your chest and then up towards the ceiling and then back in the neutral position. Okay. Take your dominant hand, 3 fingers of your dominant hand, and place them on the back of your neck, right in the center. You'll feel a circle, an indentation, a soft spot. Okay? It's the top of your spine meets the bottom of your skull. Dozens and dozens of nerve endings are right there. So I'm going to invite you to take those 3 fingers and simply firmly massage several times to the right. So you let your neck drop a little bit, relax, and then several times to the left. Again to the right, and then to the left. Okay. Now take your chin, point it down to the chest one more time as your posture is erect. And then take your chin, point it to the ceiling, and ask yourself if that made a difference. And now pause for just a moment with your chin pointed up towards the ceiling. And I invite you to expand that or enhance that just a bit by arching your back. That not only opens up the thoracic section of your body, which includes your heart and your lungs, but it also counters something we call tech neck, which is important as the whole world just hovers. We spend so much time hovering over our cell phones and our computers. We need to counter tech neck. Okay, back into a neutral position and ask yourself how you're feeling. You might want to move your head and your neck one more time. Okay, one advanced skill here. Notice where your hands are. So many of us keep ourselves closed, right? When we speak, we might cross our arms or certainly cross our legs and put our hands on our laps. I am going to invite you now to take your hands, take your arms, and if you have them, put them on the arms of your chair, opening up even wider. And ask yourself how that feels. If you don't have arms on your chair, just keep your arms side by side down by your sides. Okay, remaining open. And finally, ask yourself the question, when you speak and when you communicate, is there a chance that you hold some armor? Some armor in front of you. It's kind of like this so-called protective armor, right? Helps protect you from becoming too close to other people. Okay. If the answer is yes, and it may be, I invite you, again, this is an advanced skill, okay, to take that armor, that invisible armor, but we know it's real, and take it off. Now, don't put it down, but you just took it off. I invite you now to put it on your back. So it's not so much protection now as it is support for your backbone. Back to a neutral position. Okay, you have protection on your back, your backbone, and the thoracic section is open. You might want to even take a breath here and ask yourself how you're feeling. Again, it's awareness of what's happening in the body. Get out of the busy mind and into the body. How are you feeling? Are you aware of how you're feeling? And then ask yourself the question, could you make a slightly different choice so you can move forth as a healthy human and create those healthy human connections? Okay, so that was a little bit of time there as we developed more awareness of how we feel in our body. And now I invite you to become aware of how your emotions are feeling. So often, when we hear the word emotions in business, we automatically want to shut them down because we are not supposed to be too emotional in business. And clearly, if we want to become as influential as possible, we don't want to be too emotional. However, I am clear that it's very important, it's vital to be aware of your emotions and to honor your emotions. Our emotions are our internal GPS system. And I also believe that our emotions are there to communicate with us, to communicate how we are feeling, especially around the subject of speaking and communicating with others. I believe our emotions are telling us, pay attention. This is important. Speaking, communicating, and connecting human to human is important. And it's not easy. It is not easy to walk into somebody's office, virtually or otherwise, and have a tough conversation. It is not easy to have an opportunity to create and deliver one of those complex presentations, virtually and otherwise. It's not easy. So be aware. Be aware of how you're feeling in your body and emotionally. And typically we find that we hold our emotional stress, right? Or I call it that anxious anxiety right here in the gut. Some people call it the solar plexus. So take your dominant hand and place it right there, and place it there compassionately. Because again, this is not easy work. So I commend you for at least considering the possibility of working harder to tame any anxiety you feel around speaking and communicating. I invite you now to enhance that simply by breathing deeply. We call it diaphragmatic breathing. And I'm going to ask you to breathe deeply right into that area, which is, again, your intuition, your solar plexus, and close to the bottom portion of your lungs. So follow me. A nice deep breath in as your belly extends. Pause for a moment. And then exhale. Again, a nice deep breath in. Pause for a moment. And then exhale. When we do diaphragmatic breathing and the bottom of your lungs hit the top of your diaphragm, it's a natural relaxation technique. And it's also very similar to a technique done by the Navy SEALs, which is called diaphragmatic box breathing. 6 seconds in, hold it for 6 seconds, 6 seconds out, hold it for 6 seconds. Because I think this is important for you to know, because of course the Navy SEALs get fearful from time to time, get anxious from time to time. Why? Because we're human. So honor our humanity, okay? And become aware of how you're feeling in your body and how you're feeling emotionally as well. So we've spent time in the body, we've spent time with the emotions, and now on to the thoughts, my favorite area. Have you ever taken time to think about what you're thinking? Let's take just a moment here. Again, feet flat on the floor. And now I invite you to either close your eyes, but if that doesn't feel comfortable for you, take your eyes and pick a spot that's not on the computer screen right now, perhaps a foot or two in front of you or on either side of your computer screen, and just set your gaze there for just a moment. Okay? And just take a moment and notice your thoughts. Notice all the thoughts that are crossing your mind. Daniel Goleman, who authored Emotional Intelligence 25 years ago now, he said our minds just weren't made, just weren't equipped to deal with the amount of, he calls it information overload that's crossing our desks now in this day and age. I call it communication overload. So, what are we going to do to counter communication overload? We need to be aware. We need to be aware. So, again, get to know your thoughts. And then ask yourself the question, what are your thoughts telling you? What are they saying? I often pose this question to my clients, and very often they're telling me that their thoughts are not doing them right. Their thoughts are tough on them. For example, I had one client not long ago who was preparing for a good sized virtual presentation. And she said that her thoughts kept on telling her something like, well, as soon as you turn on the light, as soon as you start the presentation, you're going to forget everything. I had another client who said, who was preparing to go head in and to have a very important conversation. And they said that their thoughts were saying something like, no matter what you say, it's not going to matter. A couple of other clients, one said, watch out, you're going to stumble. Watch out, you're going to screw up. Another client said that their thoughts were saying something like, you fool, you idiot, you're going to blow this. So be aware. Just be aware of your thoughts. where I've been doing some work recently at the Mindfulness Center at Brown University. We call the thoughts the committee members. Some of them are kinder than others. So when you find committee members who are tough on you, who are overly critical, the thing is to realize that more times than not, those thoughts are just trying to protect us, right? They're trying to make us aware. So it's our job as effective communicators to be aware of the thoughts, maybe even to take a moment and to thank the thoughts. Thank you for trying to protect me. And then perhaps offering the opportunity to sit in the chair, sit in the corner, and to say to yourself, as an effective communicator, I have it. I trust myself. I have this presentation. I have this conversation. You're going to make things worse. You're not going to make things easier or better for me. So I respect you. I appreciate you. I have it. You know, I'm not a neuroscientist. However, I have hung out with many of them recently at Brown University and elsewhere. And Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, for instance, from the Mindfulness Center at the University of Massachusetts Medical School, says our thoughts automatically so often default to the negative. Default to the negative when we are faced with something brand new. So again, it's more like a protective situation. Our brains rather, are looking for a way to protect us, to just make sure that we're fine. So now that we're aware of that, the question to ask ourselves is, what are we going to do about it? So the skill is twofold. First, be aware. And then second, consider the possibility of making a new choice, of telling the negative thoughts, the critical thoughts to sit in the chair. You got it. Okay. So, what we're doing here is we are creating new communication habits. Fear of speaking and the anxiety we feel around speaking, not only doing presentations or virtual presentations, but especially having those one on one crucial, crucial and vital conversations. They are more important now as we really dig into the 2020s than ever before. We need new, right? Updated communication habits. And so many of these new, healthier habits that we are forming simply surround the ability to be aware, to be very well aware of how we're feeling and what we're thinking. This is how we can continue, or at least begin to continue, to break the chains of the old so we can create the new. Become aware of what's happening and then make new and improved and updated choices. Be aware and make new choices. Okay? Just a possibility. When you're ready to turn towards your anxiety, you can continue to feel the fear, to continue to feel the anxiety and run from it. Or, just a possibility, you can try at least to turn towards it. Turn towards how you're feeling in your body, how you're feeling emotionally, and what's going on in your thoughts. Be well aware and possibly make a new and improved, updated choice. Why? Well, think just a moment. What was your specific why? What might this help you do? What might this help you become? I would say the overarching why today, at least for me, is we need your voice. And frankly, in business in this day and age, they need your voice too. And I'll tell you, I've noticed business, thank goodness, they are more open now than ever to listening, to hearing everyone's voice, everyone's voice. Whether you're in a managerial position and you're communicating downstream, upstream, and peer to peer, whether you're a new hire, or even if you've been in an elevated position for quite some time. It's amazing the people I've been working with who have been in business for 25, 35 years or more and still struggle opening up the lines of communication and creating those healthy human connections. So if that sounds like you are not alone. You are absolutely not alone. And now you have some new tools. Okay? Become aware of how you feel in your body, your emotions, your thoughts, possibly making new and updated choices so you can find your voice. And if you need additional help along the way, of course, I'm here for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Donna Mac, the founder of iVoice Communication. If you would like to jump on a call, if you do indeed need additional help, perhaps we can have a conversation about your specific goals as you move forward. And then we can determine whether or not working together might make sense for you and for your business. Okay? If you do need to reach out, you can simply email me at info@ivoicecommunication.com. Until next time, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Tame that anxiety of communicating. Why? Because we need your voice. Thanks a lot.